Hi, Liana. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks very much for joining me this morning. Um, this is going to be the first video for the Past Life Therapist Association YouTube channel. And I hope it won't be the last. I hope that we'll get many, many more besides. So you're a bit of a pioneer today. You're going to be showing all the other members exactly what they could be doing and being the first person to introduce your past life experiences to
Mhm.
what could be potential new customers for yourself. Um, and I think it's really amazing that you're the first person that we're interviewing today because we can say that therapy changed our lives,
Yes.
but in your case, it really did.
Yes, it really did.
I mean, you ended up changing jobs, traveling 300 miles across the country,
Yeah.
living up a mountain in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
and becoming a therapist. Would you want to tell me some more about this? Because this is a fascinating story.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been a wee bit spontaneous anyway, just that's just my personality. But I came to Snowdonia with my son as a birthday treat. So we wanted to climb up the mountain for his 19th birthday a couple of years ago. And when I got here, I was completely overwhelmed with strong emotions about this is where I was meant to be. Like I knew everybody gets the post-holiday blues, right? You're going
Mm.
home from holiday and you don't want to go home. You've got loads of washing to do and it's really rubbish. It was so much more than post-holiday blues. I was deeply saddened to be leaving Snowdonia. And like I say, it was just a mixture of incredibly strong emotions at that time. And I couldn't get it out of my mind. So I went home and I sold everything and I moved 300 miles 4 months later to set up home here. And I immediately started to train as a therapist. It took me 2 years. I've now gone full time. I've lost my 9 to 5 straight into full time therapy because I know how much it can help and how much it can change people's lives. And not just past life regression therapy either, but hypnotherapy as well has changed my life. So yeah, that's my story, and I kind of everything shifted. So I went from living in a flat to living in a house that's not on a gas main. So sorry, everything changed. Changed like my job, my personality even altered somewhat. I became so much happier and free and intrigued by what was around me and nature. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. I think some people are still in shock. Some people back home 300 miles ago are like, did she just leave? So yeah, that's what I did.
So, when you visited Snowdonia, what was it about the place that had that drawn appeal, attraction for you?
It's really hard to explain because it's an emotion. So
Mm.
it was a very deep inner knowing of this is where I am supposed to be. So I instantly felt relaxed. I felt comfortable and I knew where things were without knowing where things are as well. So it instantly felt like home. Um, and I had moved a year prior, I'd got divorced and I'd moved somewhere else and it was lovely and I was happy there. But then when I came here, I realized no, I wasn't. That wasn't what home felt like. This was home. So it's really hard to explain because it is an inner knowing and it's an emotion that I felt.
Was there, kind of deja vu about the place?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. There's a lake here. We stayed in like a little holiday village and not too far from the base of the mountain. And by the base of the mountain, there's a lake. I now swim in the lake regularly because I just had to get in the water. There was no choice. It was I need to get in there. And when you swim a wee bit out and you look down, you can see down the valley, and that was just oh yeah, it was like a landscape that I already knew without knowing.
Mm. And did you get to the bottom of this, of how you'd known this place, of where that feeling had come from? That's
No,
almost
not
a thing of
really.
homecoming.
Yeah, it was exactly a homecoming. It was exactly like I felt like, oh, I'm finally on my homeland. This is where I should be. I haven't got to the full extent of it, but I have explored it to a degree where I found out we had family a couple of generations ago that are from Wales. Um, but not the same area that I'm in. They're a good few hours south of where I am. But yeah, so I had I think it was like my dad's granddad or something, when he was 14, 15 years old, got on a bicycle, left everything and cycled to Southampton, and that's where the family became based. So I know that I've got an ancestral, what do you call it, like a ancestors that have lived here, but I've not got to a past life where I know I have been here. I've not explored that far. I just didn't feel like I needed to, because I just know.
You just knew. It felt
Yeah.
right when you arrived. And on a practical consideration, you know, having any gas, it and being halfway up a mountain, I imagine that you don't have many neighbours, by comparison to myself, for example, out here in Essex. So where does you're working full time as a hypnotherapist, where does the base of your clients come from, and do you work by Zoom?
Yes, so I do online and I do in person. I have got a therapy room here in my house. So throughout the summer, when I was really trying to grow my business, I attended a couple of festivals, and I had a stand there to talk about past life regression. There were alternative festivals. So one was for wild women. It was a wild women group. And another was Home of the Drum. So individuals that go to these festivals are quite spiritual. So I did a stand, I did a big talk, I answered lots of questions, and I generated quite a few leads for customers from there. And then I also have an Instagram page, and I'm starting a Facebook page as well. So I'm starting to get some traffic on those as well.
What's the name of your Instagram page so that people can look it up?
It's Soul Comforts Hypnotherapy.
Yep. And the Facebook is the same, Soul Comforts Hypnotherapy.
It is,
Wonderful. Yeah. I'll put a link up to that. Now, you mentioned lots of spiritual people there, and clients come that way. It's often the experience of therapists who work in past life regression that many of our clients are spiritual, and that we often find that the work we do with past life regression and associated therapies like interlife therapy, for example, is quite different from conventional hypnotherapy. What do you think it is that's the attraction for past life regression?
I think it's on a deeper level. So I think if somebody's on a spiritual path already, then they already understand reincarnation, karmic bonds, the life purpose, etc. And it's being on that path that gives you, it normally gives you more answers, more questions to answer. So you might try and answer a question, and then you know that you've got 3 or 4 questions on the back of that answer. And it's people that are on that path, and they're finding those questions, and they're trying to answer them, and they want some assistance to maybe speed up their spiritual growth, or get answers that they've not been able to obtain through meditation or similar practices.
Yeah, that makes sense. We have at the MPLTA, the past life energy therapy course, and that one in particular is about using past life regression to raise the individual's vibration as part of their spiritual journey and development. So before you became a therapist, would you describe yourself as having been always a spiritual person?
So as a child, well, as a teen, I desperately wanted to be a witch.
Really?
There's a witch village in the New Forest in Hampshire called Burley, and I was always drawn to it. I was always wanting to buy the crystals and the dream catchers and things like that. And then through my 20s, kind of suppressed. I was a mother, I had other things to do, I was working full time. And I would make references to like, oh, I've been here before, or oh, this is a life lesson, or whatever, but I hadn't explored it to the extent that I do now. It was really coming here on holiday that opened that up for me, because I just knew that I needed to explore my spiritual side. And since then, I mean, prior to that, I was very corporate. I'd always worked in a corporate world. I'd worked for Barclays Bank, Vitality Health and Life Insurance. Like, it was very, very corporate. And I found myself drifting slowly away to the point where I felt like I was a free spirit trapped in a corporate world. And that's kind of where I got to, where I was like, no, I need this to be my focus now. There's so much to learn, and so many people can be helped without even really recognizing that they need help through this type of therapy.
Yes, so that's interesting that you mentioned that, because as therapists, we tend to take it for granted that the subconscious mind always knows what's best for us. There are always exceptions to that rule, but I think it's often the case that clients come with their presenting issue with what they think is wrong, and then actually, when we've started working with them, something else is revealed. And I think that's the reason why I'm so certain that all hypnotherapists need to be trained in past life regression. Because if we do any kind of regression to cause, there is always that possibility that the subconscious mind is going to immediately take somebody back to that past life.
Yes.
Why was it past life regression and hypnotherapy that you got into, say, rather than, for example, Reiki or cards, or things like that, tarot?
Well, I do read cards. Not very good at it, but I do it on a personal level.
Mhm.
And I did get into Reiki as well. I'm qualified as a Reiki practitioner. But it was more, past life regression was purely because of my strong emotions to where I live. I really wanted to explore that. But also I have dreams, really vivid dreams. I've always thought those are memories, those aren't dreams. So I explored that. Then I realized how powerful our minds are by doing this. And then that's how I got onto conventional hypnotherapy. So I'm actually a chronic pain sufferer. I'm in pain 24/7. So I decided that the only thing that really helped me was water. So being submerged in water really helped. But I wanted to try hypnotherapy, and I wanted to see if I could help myself in that way as well. So I started deep sleep hypnosis, which improved my sleep from 2 to 3 hours a night to 5 to 6. And that allowed me to cope better with day-to-day life as well, because I wasn't as tired, I wasn't as groggy. And then from there, I thought, our minds are powerful. Like, we can help ourselves, because a hypnotherapist just guides a person through self-hypnosis, in my opinion. So if we can teach this to people, they can help themselves. And pain management and sleep management via hypnotherapy is absolutely fantastic. It's improved my life so much. It's unreal.
Yeah, that's a good point actually that you make there. Often people say to us, how will I know that I'm under? How will I know that I'm in hypnosis? And quite often I say to them, well, there's no under to go to. Because
Yeah.
and it isn't our hypnosis, is it, that we are pushing on or giving to or using
No.
for the client. We're just naturally guiding them, or guiding them through their own natural ability and process. And I think dreams, as we know, Freud believed they were the royal road to the subconscious. And it is often the case in past life regression that we find that clients who have dreams about other countries or other times repeatedly very often find that comes up in their past life. Now, if we were to go on to a more contentious subject, because there'll be people watching this who say, "Oh, it's a load of old rubbish," and I would say to them, well, you don't need to believe in a past life for this to work for you. Because we could argue that at one level, we're only dealing with what the subconscious mind is presenting to us symbolically.
Yes.
But what's your take on it? Because I think it's entirely appropriate that we all have our own individual opinion on this, because we're going to meet clients from all different kinds of backgrounds. And so the greater variety of opinion amongst the therapists, the more people we can get to help.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that if there is therapeutic benefit to it, regardless of whether you believe it or not. If you go through it and it helps you to deal with an emotion or a memory or anything at all, if there is any therapeutic benefit, then it's worthwhile, and it doesn't matter if you believe.
Yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't matter if the outcome, that's what we're aiming for. And it's true to say, I think, that all kinds of insights that are real, that are related to this life that we're living now, can come up in past life regressions, can't they?
Yes.
And have you ever had with your clients any situations where you can verify some of the regressions?
I don't after a session, I don't go off and sort of investigate or look up times and dates and things like that, because as we know, times and dates can be quite distorted anyway. So no, not really. I don't go away and research it. I did have one lady when I first started. She was a volunteer, actually. She was one of my case studies, and she regressed back to a time where she was hit by a black car. She was 8 years old. She was okay, she was fine, but she was hit by a black car, and she was trying to deal with the emotion of she was alone when that happened. So she didn't have a parent with her or anything. Anyway, she went off and everything, and then she messaged me a couple of days later, and she said the weirdest thing has happened. I told my mum about the regression, and she said that she was hit outside a shop, exactly as she had explained, when she was 8 years old, by a black car. So that opened my interest into generational memories as well. But that's the only sort of one that I've had come back and say, yeah, this is what happened from a person in this life and their actual memory. So I thought in the regression that was her being regressed, but it turned out that it was a memory of her mum's, which I found really, really interesting. But for a past life verification, no, I don't go off and investigate them.
And just for the benefit of any listeners or watchers here, viewers who might be thinking that GDPR wasn't observed here, we had already discussed earlier that client was happy for you to mention that case study.
Yeah. So she was my case study in the beginning. She was a volunteer, and she was happy to let me share. So
yeah, that's brilliant. It's interesting. Many years ago now, when I was first training as a hypnotherapist, I was lucky enough to have a rather unique trainer who was from Wales, and he taught us past life regression and interlife or life between life therapy, and we had a guy who volunteered. His past life regression is somewhere out there on video in the internet cloud. And he couldn't stop smoking. He had tried everything, including hypnosis. And I can't remember what it was that David heard or saw, but he decided to do regression work. And this guy regressed back to somewhere between 1939 and 1945. And I can't remember if he was American or English, but he would have been one of the Allied forces and was on some kind of mission, either reconnaissance or bombing raid over one of the Axis territories. And a fault occurred in the aeroplane. And he gave us the date, an approximate time, the location, the number of the make and model of the aeroplane.
Wow.
How many missions it had flown, the names of the crew, where it crashed, and the pattern of its descent. Apparently, this particular aeroplane, when it had a particular engine fault, had a particular pattern of descent. Um, and the plane was on fire before it crashed, and so they were being choked by smoke, and he was the only person that survived. And it came out during the regression that whilst he was being choked by the smoke, he wanted to be sick. Now, of course, we know that in a fight-flight situation, voiding the bowels, emptying, the stomach, is a natural thing. But also gagging on smoke. So you would think that would put you off of smoking, but apparently he smoked thereafter to get rid of the taste
Oh, wow.
of the smoke in his mouth and to suppress the feeling of gagging. And so we're dutifully writing down all these details.
Yeah.
And by the next session, we had been able to verify a huge amount of data that he'd given us. I have to say, it had no effect on his smoking habit, but it was remarkable. Now, of
Yeah.
course, I have no way of knowing whether or not that information had been accessed by that subject at any time in the past, whether it had been consciously or unconsciously noted and stored in his mind. And people can make that objection, but it was extraordinary. And I've known a couple of other people who have had past life regressions, including myself, that later on details of them have been verified. And it's one of the interesting things. In the West, we don't tend to think about reincarnation very much, probably because of our Christian heritage, which has traditionally rejected reincarnation. But there are billions of people across the world from other faiths and practices of religion and belief that don't exist any longer, that would have found reincarnation to be a most natural recycling process. But that kind of generational thing that you talk about, there's also that theory, isn't there, that memory can be passed on through DNA. I know there are quite a few people who say that it's not possible at all. But that actually seems to be quite common.
Yes.
One of the other arguments I've heard people say is that it is past life regression is a mediumistic quality, that what the person is doing is tapping into the soul memory of somebody else. It's almost like changing channel. It's quite fascinating, the number of views that there are. What kind of use do you think past life regression therapy has for your clients?
Well, that's quite a loaded question because obviously there are so many benefits to it. But for example, if you have emotions presenting in this life that are unexplainable, and I mean like really intense emotions, like a fear or anything like that, really, that's presenting, and there's no way to really explain it from this life. There's been no event that could have caused it, and it's unexplainable. The benefit of being able to regress back to a previous life, find out where and how that emotion was able to come forward. Because what I often find is you'll regress back to a point where something has happened, and then often that person will then die in that life without ever having processed the emotion of what's just happened to them. So if you can go back and you can process that emotion and you can work through that emotion, then in this life, that emotion is going to fade itself out and you're going to be able to progress on your life path in a much easier and more settled manner because you've dealt with that intense emotion.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the thing that the majority of us find is the most common outcome. And I know that people worry about abreactions,
Hmm.
but I tend to find past life regression therapy tends to be more gentle.
Hmm.
Do you find that as well?
Yeah, I do find
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
There can be strong emotions that come up, when people have this recollection of what's happened to them, or what they have been through, and sometimes what they have done.
Yes.
Uh, but it isn't. There's no real storm and stress about it that causes them any lasting distress. It actually tends to be really quite helpful and
Hmm.
healing. And as you say, helps to clear out the problem that exists in this life.
Yeah. I think also it gives them relief. The relief of the knowing and the relief of being able to move forward without having this really difficult emotion that you've got no idea how to handle. Once you've done that and you've worked through it, the relief that comes with it is very powerful.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. That understanding
Mm.
is really important, isn't it? It's like, if you've had a problem, physical, medical problem, 15 years and there's no diagnosis that you've received, and you begin to wonder whether it's in your head, and other people are fed up with hearing about it. And then one day you get to see the right doctor and they give you a name for your problem. And it's, oh, thank goodness for that.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it's all that suffering has now got a name, you know, and it's justified, it's
Hmm.
explained.
Yeah.
And just having a name for something can be really important. And as you say, just knowing where something has come from, how it arose, um, can bring that peace of mind to people. Mm.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I know that you work also with fears and phobias,
Hmm.
with smoking cessation.
Yeah.
You do that as a 90-minute session, I think.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And that you also um, work with weight management and a virtual hypnogastric band.
Yep.
And that's a three session approach. Is that right?
Free 90-minute sessions.
Three
Yeah.
90-minute sessions. And is that all of the things that you do, or are there things that I've missed out there?
So where I'm still quite new, it's I've been under 12 months since I've been practicing as a hypnotherapist. I still I still attract customers who aren't 100% sure on hypnotherapy. And I kind of make a deal that if you do me a review, if it's successful, obviously you do me a review and I'll do you a good price. And from doing that, I've managed to work with a client that has been suffering for years with insomnia. So that's something that I'm going to be focusing on as well going forward, because like I say, with the deep sleep hypnosis for myself, I know the risks of not getting enough sleep. So being able to work with that lady to help with her insomnia was really beneficial. So that's another area that I'm going to be branching out to as well.
Mm. Oh yes, that insomnia. I saw the review, and if
Hmm.
people are interested in working with you, Liana, their details will come up. But I think it's nice for them to know that you have got lots of five-star reviews there
Yeah.
for hypnotherapy, and there was one quite surprising. Uh, well, I wasn't surprised, but the customer was surprised how they'd stopped smoking
Hmm.
in just one 90-minute session,
Yeah.
and that insomnia. Now, of course, insomnia is a big issue.
Hmm.
I mean, we
Yeah.
are surrounded by all kinds of pollution and things that stop us from sleeping, but we now know, of course, that not sleeping um, has an effect on our metabolism, so we can't
Hmm.
successfully lose weight. We can't deal with pain properly. It increases our risk of diabetes. It increases our risks of hypertension and stroke and heart disease, Alzheimer's disease. Having a good night's sleep is absolutely essential.
Hmm. Yeah.
So if anybody's listening to this late at night because they can't get to sleep, then perhaps they should
Yeah.
be giving you an email
Yeah.
for deep sleep hypnosis.
Hmm.
And I think you provide some resources for your clients as well in terms of recording. What kind of recordings are they?
So for any past life regression clients, whether it's explorative or timeline healing, or I also do meeting your spirit guides sessions. So any of those sessions, I record the audio. And then after the session, I write everything up, because that's just how I work. And I find it more comfortable being able to sit and read through something rather than having to listen to something, for example. So then they'll get the write-up of everything that's been said, and they'll also get the audio recording of their session so that they can go back and listen to it. I don't do the audio recording for conventional hypnotherapy. That's just for the past life or the spiritual side of things.
Yeah, no, I think that's quite right. I know people do give out recordings of the session with their clients, but I always think that's counterproductive, because if when we give a client a recording of the past life regression, we're giving them this because they're not necessarily going to remember every word of it. And so it's almost a souvenir to some people, but it's something that they can listen to. And very often after the session, maybe 1 or 2 days, maybe 2 or 3 months, they start to join the dots and things fall into place. So I'm always getting emails months after where they've said, oh, this just occurred to me and now I understand it. But when we have clients for example, smoking cessation, if we say to them, and here you are, here's a CD, go home and listen to this, or here's a recording, go home and listen to it, what we're actually doing is suggesting to the subconscious that the therapy in that session hasn't worked and that they need to do more. So I'm very much with you on not giving those out. I mean, general relaxation hypnosis and that kind of thing, that's a different thing altogether. But trying to complete therapy outside of the therapy room is not the right way to do it, is it?
Well, it's completely counterproductive. The only other time when I give a recording is when it is, so for the lady that I helped with insomnia, so we went through it in sessions in therapy, and then I made a recording for her with things that I knew helped to relax her. And helped her to focus her mind in a specific way. So I gave her I think it was like a 20-minute recording that she could listen to whenever she was finding it difficult. Because the thing with insomnia is it's not a 90-minute session quick fix. It is something that you have to work at. So having that recording just solidifies everything that you've put in place already, and boosts it almost. But yeah, anything other than that, I don't do recordings for, because I really believe it's counterproductive.
Yeah, and I remember this particular lady, she said that actually she wasn't very good at relaxation. And I suspect there are lots of people out there who, if they were to think about it, what they think is relaxation is actually them doing something. Whether it's watching Dr. Pimple Popper for 20 minutes before going to bed, or whether they're outside cleaning up leaves in the garden. Although they might enjoy the process, they are actually doing something. They're not really completely resting.
I think as well that we have to be really careful, because everything out there says to you, clear your mind, and that's how you relax. Well, that's not strictly true.
That's right.
It's actually more about focusing your mind. And if a thought comes in, acknowledge it, move it away, refocus. Because if you try to clear your mind, well, for me, it's impossible. So it's all about focusing the mind. But the message out there is, oh, clear your mind, relax, meditate. That's not how you do it. Or in my experience, that's not how you do it. It's more about focusing your mind. And that's how you learn. And that's how you learn to relax and embrace particular moments and focus on particular moments and feelings and emotions that are passing through in that moment, as opposed to clearing it and thinking that you have to have nothing in your mind.
This unblemished canvas. It's more about learning that we can choose what we think about. Or rather, the brain presents us, or the subconscious presents us, with lots of things: thoughts, worries, concerns, made up scenarios, little dramas, and so on and so forth. And these might be real or imagined, But we actually, although they're presented to us by our brain, we actually
Hmm.
have the choice as to what we follow.
Yes, yeah,
Like looking at the sky, we can choose to follow that cloud, or we can choose to follow that cloud, or we can just acknowledge that there's a cloud and let it get on with being a cloud. We don't
yes,
have to make up a story about what we're thinking, whether we like it or not, and go
exactly.
down that mental rabbit hole, which of
Hmm.
course is worse than going from one Wikipedia link to another.
Yeah,
Learn nothing.
yeah.
So I'm quite impressed actually that you've only been doing this for 12 months, but you're now already full time, because there will be plenty of people out there, um, new hypnotherapists and experienced hypnotherapists, ones who are very long in the tooth, who still wouldn't say that they're full time. So if you had, I'm going to really put you on the spot now,
Yeah, okay.
a message for other therapists being successful, what would you say?
What do you mean, other therapists being
So
successful?
if other therapists are watching this and they'd like to,
Oh,
how could I get, you know, what's the secret, do you think, for a therapist being full-time busy?
it's their own belief in themselves.
Yeah.
Can they do it? Can they get the clients? Can they, can they do it? And if you don't believe in yourself, then you're not going to be able to do it. You have to believe in yourself. You have to visualize yourself doing it. And you have to promote yourself. You have to be able to say, no, I'm damn good at this and I can help you. Don't shy away and be like, oh, I might be able to help. You can help. You've got the knowledge. Believe in yourself, push yourself, and expand your own boundaries. And take a risk.
Yeah,
Take a risk.
and anybody watching this who's thinking about past life regression or one of the other therapies that you practice, and they're
Mhm.
thinking about getting in touch, but they're wondering if it's the right time or if it's for them, what would you have to say to that potential client?
I would ask them, why do they think that this is presented to them at this time? Why is this in front of you, and why are you being presented with the opportunity? Because I believe that everything is happening for a reason, and loads of different cogs are moving at the same time to help us all become better versions of ourselves. And if you are suddenly thinking, oh, maybe I need to see a past life regression therapist, then yes, you do need to. And
Mm,
you need to listen to that sign and go with it.
yeah. If you've got the itch, scratch it.
Exactly. You won't regret
Won't
it.
regret it. No. Well, thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's been great to have a chat, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you, Liana. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Hello, and thank you for visiting the Past Life Therapists Association YouTube channel. If you'd like to know more about past life regression or to join the association, then go to the website www.pastliferegression.co.uk. Thank you.